Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. It's Talk Shit Tuesday. What up, everybody? What up? Sorry about the delay. Time just ain't enough time in the day. Appreciate everybody for showing up tonight. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I don't have my phone with me right now, fellas. I done left it over in the other room. So I'm trying to get to my chats out. Big shout out to everybody out there in the Shark Tank. Big shout out to all my people out there on the back street. I'm rushing today, so y'all forgive me. Big delay. Hey, but tonight we're going to be having a little conversation about the American Game Dog Times and Sport and Dog Journal. And how I sit back and I kind of look at the times, and I look at back then conversations and the now conversations. And I look how the journal and YouTube and some of the other, internet things that we have going on nowadays. And back in our time when we didn't have it, the closest thing that we could have in this community would be the books for the educational purposes. We had people who was putting out VHSs of old things, interviews. And then we had the Sport and Dog Journal, Game Dog Times, and other publications. The reason I wanted to speak on them, because the publications for us back then, and it's a lot of guys that maybe have never seen a publication, never seen it, they hear about it, but have you ever really just picked up one? Same thing with the American Game Dog Times. Have you ever just really picked up one and just glance through it and see, what's in it? Why was it so important? Because from my standpoint, I thought it was important. Once we started, think about the years that had gone by that we had been in the game and wasn't really concerned about it. And probably wouldn't have never been concerned about it if Jack hadn't have reached out to us. Because wasn't nobody really pushing it back in them days. And then you had to have a sponsor to get in. So that was another one of the reasons, we wasn't really, because we was just bulldogging. But once Jack called, and I think it was after the Tommy Boy situation that he called, and he had the name all wrong and everything, but that's how we got subscribed. But once you got into the journal, and seen the information, and we became a part of the community. At that time, I feel like we were full-fledged at that point in time, because now we get a chance to report ourselves. And even then, prior to that, we wasn't doing reporting. Other people were doing it. Being that the crew we was hanging around with, they always made it a point to do it. But got to look at the time frame. Remember, we came into these dogs in the early 80s. I'm going to show y'all something here. This book here, I believe, was a 1986 version. I want to go over this with y'all right quick here. Let me get this together. I'll bug y'all out. Come on. Things is moving so slow today. Hold on. Here we go. No, that's not the one. Is that the one? Yeah, that's the one. This one here is a 1987 American Pit Bull Terrier Times. Now this is 87. I believe this is the year that I believe Frank Rocker took over. I think this was one of his first editions that he was actually in charge. But what I wanted to go down here and show y'all is, hold on, let me get down here. Is this the book I did have earlier? Oh yeah, here we go. This one here. Check this out here. Oakland Championships. I'm gonna see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Just to show y'all, back in the day, we did have in these journals, you'll notice that says South Central Dog Association Oklahoma State Championship Confirmation Show and the results, right? These books wasn't just about trying to um, give us a more of a, they were doing more than just promoting, how will I say that? They were giving you more than just show news. It wasn't all about show news. Actually, they both books actually for me tried to cover the whole entire concept from confirmation to weight pulling, all those type of shows, give people a chance to advertise what they had on their yard, and then the show news. These things I think was important because it's, when I hear people, they talk about, that like all this game was persisted of back in them days was the box, and that's not true. A lot of these guys here, they took pride in these confirmation shows, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because they made them big. They advertised them. Everybody looked forward to them. Everybody was putting in the work because it wasn't nothing bigger and better than being recognized. Either it was in the ADBA had a book, or it was going to be the Sporting Dog Journal, or it was going to be the American Game Talk Times. One of them, you could just, they would promote these shows and then put them out there for people to see the jobs that these dogs were doing. And I always felt like that concept back in that time period, it worked for that time period. Here we go right here. Louisiana Championship, South Central. I believe these dogs here did confirmation shows, but they even did weight pulling. I think we got some in here with the weight pulling. William and James Cotton, the Dream Team of Kansas. Boys had some good dogs. But let me see if I can find it right quick. But while I'm looking for this, one of the things that they did back in that time period when it came to those shows, they also advertised those shows in the journals. So it wasn't like it was something that just popped up. You had a chance to get ready, put in some work, get registered, do all that good shit. For those who don't know, I like this little thing right here. I'll show y'all real quick. Get a picture of my man, Robert T, right there. See how they pay that? Let you know. They represent the grand champion, Robert T. We know Robert T, I think, went on to win 9 and lost going for 10. we had things like nice stories in here, nice information. See, animal control, injured child, wrong evictions. They even have court cases like, let me see here. I'm gonna pull up a court situation. When they had people's yards being raided and talking about the court cases, you would find all these things right here in either the Sporting Dog Journal or the American Game Dog Times. You was going to find that information, and I'm just scrolling through it because I'm trying to get down to something I thought I was looking at earlier. But when you get down to it, you think about how interesting you would sit back and couldn't wait to get your journal or your American Game Dog Times, because the stories that's in here. Now remember, this puts us back in that time period, and I'm not trying to get in here and read some of these stories. I just think it's very interesting for some of the young guys who've never experienced, what the average dog man back in them days experienced when we had something like this that, you became a part of. Not everybody was in the journal. Not everybody was in the American Game Dog Times. But as you notice, some of the names that we speak so highly of that had a lot to do with the history of these dogs were able to become the people they became due to this type of advertisement. So when you sit back and you think, well, not everybody wanted to do the journals and stuff like that, that is true. But you can't hate on the ones that did. And if you notice, everybody that did, look at the names. In this issue, 1988, Talking Dogs, Bob Smith on Bully Son, Indian Sonny on Kobe Dogs, Rambling with Alabama Red. These kind of, if you sit down and read some of these books, man, your history of the American Pit Bull Terrier, the game American Pit Bull Terrier, you could be overwhelmed with the amount of information and history that you would learn. It's like when we tell y'all to get on the bus. See, this is one of the moments you put yourself on the bus and you stop letting other people tell you your stories, and go out and just find things like this. If you could ever get your hands on, like Fat Book has a great volume of books. Schoolboy has a great volume of books. And I promote anybody who's willing to get out there and see this thing move forward. But I'm always one of them stricklers on, you got to know your history to pay close attention to where you want to go moving into the future, because these men have already done things that you're looking to do. Whether it be like on the confirmation shows I just showed you. Like I said, this edition right here, I guess this was the 1988 edition. As you notice, Frank Rockwell became the new editor, the Times editor back at this time period. And I thought this is the part I was talking about right here. Back in the day, fellas, the maximum dog fighting fine. Now this was here, I think this one here happened in Arkansas back in 1987. You'll notice it says the judicial attitude of Arkansas was clearly expressed November the 13th, 1987, when 16 of 18 defendants were found guilty of unlawful dog fighting in the municipal court in Pine Bluff. Judge Stephen A. Dariable imposed a maximum fine possible under Arkansas law, which was $5,000 on each one convicted. In this case, the officers in the court made no attempt to distinguish between those attending the alleged fight and those actually in the pit participating. In the past, Arkansas cases spectators were not found guilty of unlawful dogfighting, but simply attending an unlawful fight. This time in Pine Bluff, however, it was different. They didn't even make a difference between who was in the pit and who wasn't in the pit. They discharged 16 of 18 people. It says the officers received their raid orders the afternoon before the raid and the following day. In their testimony, they did not report actually seeing dogs fighting, nor did they identify anyone specifically as having been in the pit with the dog at the time of the raid. The court, however, did accept testimony about the sounds officers said they heard coming from the barn. The reported discovery of injured dogs and TV news footage showing a pit scale and several people inside a barn-type structure. A copy of the Game Dog Digest allegedly found in a vehicle was introduced as evidence of the nature of the gathering. The case has been appealed to the circuit court with the defendants free on bond. Now, let me finish this. It may be worth noting that one defendant came to court wearing a suit and tie. Officers said officers did not pick him out of the crowd as one who had been at the scene that day. Charges against him and one other defendant were dismissed. Now, they giving you things that we talk about even today. How they over-exaggerate, taking the books to help get their point across. Don't necessarily have to catch you in the box. Now imagine, an officer testifying against you based on not something he's seen, but something he heard. Now, I didn't really get a chance to do the research to see how the appeal went on this case, but there was a lot of things that went wrong which made this case appealable. Because there were in some places, like this article here, this says pit bulls illegal. I remember this in 1988. The feeling among the dog fraternity has been all constitutional protection of individual rights will ultimately protect rights of animal ownership. And we have seen recent cases where courts have ruled against ordinance outlawing pit bull ownership. There are still, however, some serious threats out there. The hearing is scheduled in May in Arkansas concerning a Mibio ordinance that prohibits keeping of dogs substantially conforming to the standards of the American Kennel Club for the American Staffordshire Terrier or Staffordshire Bull Terrier or United States Kennel Club for American Pit Bull Terrier. The ordinance was passed June 16, 1986. The Times contacted Maumelle Animal Control Officer Jeff Wilkinson to see what had prompted this ordinance. Have there been problems with pit bulls in Maumelle? He said no, and we don't intend to have any. Wilkinson's view is that the life of a child is not worth the risk of unregulated pit bull ownership. Thus, the ordinance is designed to prevent a threat to the public safety. These type of cases continue to crop up. Richardson, Texas, and another recent example, and their cases are a serious. And these cases are a serious problem. One reason is the public's judges judges are coming under such cases. One reason is the public pressure judges coming under in such cases. Our side is not the one with public support. There is a possibility that the courts will shift burden of proof to the dog, requiring that the attorneys prove these animals not to be vicious. And what about the money? The financial strain of challenging a law all the way through the appeals process can be difficult. But unless challenged, the ordinance will stand. If you would like more information, well, this is back in that time. But, fellas, that's 1988. Now, you know, we be going through a lot when we talk about the past. Because we know so many people who have been through the raids and dogs taken and these crazy court cases and the insurance part. See, the way, now imagine us not having the journals around. Remember, we don't have the internet, we don't have the YouTube, we don't have the TikToks and the Facebooks. So for our little community, these are the things that we got our information from. Now, with all the technology that we have today, I look at the fight. They had more fight in them back then, and than we look like we have now. And the reason I say that is because I think about crazy shit that I seen, like the night and when they killed all the dogs right there. You know, they never put that in the paper. It was never on TV. Talk about Romulus. Even dogs that this was just there on the chain at the place, you know, they was holding things down at. Those dogs didn't have nothing to do with nothing. You know, if you had a dog in the car, every single dog that was on the property that night, they shot. Did nobody take them to animal control to see if they could be rehabilitated? Did nobody check none of them for no scars or nothing? They just shot and killed every dog that night. I'm a witness to it. You know, we talk about it. We was there. But that never came up. And the other funny thing about it is, when the case went down, the fact that there was never any evidence pertaining to dogs. You know, everybody was charged for participating in the dog fight. I think a lot of everybody, you know, most of the people that I knew of that was caught up in that case, they took pleas. I really don't think if somebody even went to jail. I mean, they all went to jail, but I'm talking about as far as case-wise, because there was a lot of them. But never know if anybody got any days or anything. I know they got fines and shit, but and then you had a lot of people from out of town that got caught up into that. But the thing that we noticed that they never talked about what actually happened that night. Where was the evidence on what happened to the dogs? Never. Never even came up in the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we talk about this one over here. Yeah, in this book here, yard rated, dogs taken. Monday, February 8th, 1987, Wire Services reported the following from Colorado. 37 pit bulls seized in a raid on a suspected illegal dogfighting operation could face killing, authorities say. The dog owner, Robert C. Bad Bob Thu of Yonder, was arrested in what the investigators for the Humane Society of the United States called one of the largest seizures of pit bulls in the country. 1987, fellas. 37 pit bulls, the largest seizure in the country. District Attorney Barney Yupa said Sunday that the court could order the pit bulls destroyed or turned over to the Humane Society, which gave technical assistance during the raid by the El Paso County Sheriff's Department. Now, I guess they wire services like the CNN satellites and shit. You know what I mean? Because this is you've seen a lot of this. This pretty much kept everybody on, you know, what was actually going on, not just around, but actually in different countries too. That's what one of the things that we just liked about the books. The books was more like so informative, and you got so much information outside of, you know, the box situation. I mean, because I always thought they was, you know, I used to just sit down and read them because some of the stories and listen to some of the comments that people made. You know, how other people felt about certain situations, how guys communicated and pulled together to do things, because this a lot of those ordinances and a lot of those laws back in the day, you know, people were fighting them things. You know, Mo was telling y'all about how Pat Patrick, you know, he just spoke on that stuff. Them was like big time cases. I remember with that last South Carolina bus they had up there, how they were still talking about using Tant, like, you know, had to throw him in the conversation because, you know, he was one of the great ones out there, and we got we got him, you know. But look at the years in between. See, society doesn't change when it comes down to years and years and years of certain things that happen. The people change, but as you'll notice through all this big internet that we have now, we were down to magazines and books. But look at the years that this went on. Many years, fellas. Many years. Then I take you back to this stuff here. Confirmation show. Look at that. South Central Dog Association, they have nationals. They even got one in here. They got the best in show. It tells everybody's listens and what they won. But they even got a weight pull competition in here. And I just want to, let me get to this weight pull competition thing. Let me get y'all down to this weight. Because I want, you know, I talked about dogs doing the weight pull. Look at this, man. South Central Nationals. Female, most weight pulled. Awesome Cantu, 5,755 pounds. Most weight pulled per pound. Daisy, 107.35 pounds per pound. Males, most weight, big head, 7,205 pounds. Most per pound, Doomsday, 92.5. And then it has the rankings right there. Males, 35 and under, 45 and under, 55 and under, 65 and under, 75 and under, and 75 and over. Man, look at the weight some of these dogs is pulling. At 35 and under, Captain Crunch, 2,650 pounds, man. And that's per pound, that's 20.176. Long Philly, 650 pounds, 20.534 per pound, pounds per pound. But see the recognition? They put that shit out there, man, and people participated. Believe that. They took pride in that because it was still a highlight of the American Pit Bull Terrier. It was a highlight. It was promoted. You know, you had a different type of community who represented it, and they didn't have no problems sharing that space with what we were doing. Our box people, the American game dog. They didn't have no problems using that promotion to do that, the good and the bad. They worked hand in hand. These books are evident of that. And it went on, and they were nationally, these things were nationally done. You know, people definitely went out their way and they participated and actually created good dogs. You know, why did they get away from it? You know, because of the pressure. When you couldn't separate the good from the bad and they gumping, they just putting the pit bull in a category of they all bad. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what was hurting that part of it, because at this point the fight is on, because you got too much of promoting the lies. You know, in each state, everybody, we all knew what they was happening. They was running in, just snatching up dogs. Same thing that y'all going through now. But that hurt the people who were basically sharing that space, because it wasn't about the dog fighting. It was about these dogs are so vicious that they more worried about them attacking people than what was actually going on in the box. That's what hurt for us back then, because of the way they exaggerated things. And when these little instances were happening, you know, they played on it. But the sad part about it is, what happened to the dog when all this was going on? They were actually being killed. Because back then, if you were telling people that you could rehabilitate these dogs, then that meant they couldn't, all dogs, pit bulls can't be that bad. No, so we don't want that narrative yet. They didn't want that narrative. But eventually, the courts end up ruling that we have rights. You can't individually just pick that breed out and then make it subject to something that you can't put on other breeds. Okay, that took people fighting for their rights, fellas. That didn't change because they felt sorry for us. That got changed through people fighting for what was right. Then you think about, all right, so we got that part out the way. And that led us into the crazy era of justifying the journals, the books themselves. Because they hadn't started attacking the books. Because at this point in time, they're using the books to promote the confirmation shows and things like that. But then all of a sudden, when we get back to the books, we get this big ass boom. Everybody's got a pit bull because due to the negative outlook that the media had took on, it made people want the dogs even more. Because just think about it. How are you being under this type of pressure, but yet now it takes off? It's not the first time we've seen that happen when it came to dogs, fellas. I'm telling you, I've lived long enough. I've seen when they had the Doberman Pinscher was supposed to be the worst extinct dog on the earth, and and you had to be a actual dog person to have one, and you couldn't really keep them as pets either. Then the movie The Doberman Gang came out, and then all of a sudden everybody wants a Doberman. A couple people put, pit bull in the video, and all of a sudden everybody want one. Then you see all the movies where somebody's you're gonna have a pit bull somewhere in the movie. Negative media created that boom, believe it or not. Negative media created that boom. So along with that boom came, if you pay attention to the years, as we went into the 90s, things for the game American Pit Bull Terrier, things got wild. It got wild. And I'm not saying that just because I'm making it up. History will take care of that for me because it's true. It's something that has already happened. How do we go from, this 5,000 to, remember, it was a misdemeanor, We're back in 88. Remember, we was in the game back in early 80s when I'm talking about maybe I was still in the Corps. I didn't get out of the Corps until 83, 84. So think about all that time, and then they talk about 1987, 88. I'm sitting there watching this shit blow up in the 90s to where, if you was trying to hurt the game, you didn't do nothing. They didn't do no more than help it. Because the reality came. You start seeing a whole lot of those dog shows. A lot of them. I'm telling you, I remember I seen a pit bull down there pulling the damn, 18-wheeler. I mean, the trailer wasn't on it, but he was pulling it. I mean, a big bulldog pulling this damn thing. But see, to me, the ability that these dogs have is one of the reasons why I do not knock what people do moving into the future. Because these dogs have shown that they have the ability to do amazing things. Been doing it for God knows how long. It's just a matter of where you at in the game. Everybody wasn't in the box. Some people played in and out of the box. But the thing is, they had already had a platform. So this thing about this new platform, it ain't new. It's actually old. But in order to do something that has already done before, and that's why I'm showing you, fellas, they used to have big conventions, big shows. And if you notice, they were organized, and they had people who was just as eager for competition as the man who was climbing over the walls in the box. Beautiful dogs. They were actually breeding a lot of those dogs, selling a lot of those dogs in their own little pockets and community based on conformation weight pulling. It was big. And then they had the recognition. It wasn't just like you got a trophy. No, you was actually publishing all these magazines. So you have the pit bull community all getting a chance to look at that information. So even somebody who just wanted to happen to see a dog like Mayday and be like, oh, I like that dog. I wonder if I can get something off of him and see how well he pulls something. You know, dog wasn't, he's still a bulldog. You could take something out of him and he could have been over there pulling trucks. When, you know, Mayday became, again, a confirmation show winner, but maybe because a lot of the wins in confirmation because who he really was. He was Mayday. But Mayday wasn't the only dog that was being promoted like that, fellas. There's a whole lot of that going on. Champion Dylan. Yeah, Champion Dylan. He was a confirmation show champion. But see, my thing is, we sit here and we be telling y'all our history. And we, like I said, we go way back. But today I'm trying to just give y'all an insight on these books because a lot of the people, like I heard, you know, one of my old school fellas, they, you know, I ain't gonna say their name, but they like 50-some years old. I know they know what they talking about. I know they didn't have that box work. They completely understood. Even at 52, they was around long enough to understand and could verify everything that I'm saying because I heard somebody basically trying to explain that today. And it was shocking that the kickback that was more like, this is, what they doing is going to be something different. And it's really not. Y'all got to get to the level of what they were doing back then. See, you wasn't around. You don't know the level of what was actually going on. That confirmation and that weight pulling, that shit was on TV. So it wasn't like, you know, back then that through the bad promotions and the bad media when it came to the pit bulls, it did bring more interest, but it also created more attention that where you had that community over there and you had this community over here, and then this is where everybody met up here, and then you had access to whatever you wanted when it came to dealing with an American Pit Bull Terrier. Some people cropped ears, some people didn't. Some people clipped tails, some people didn't. Everybody had a different way of representing these dogs. But taking you back to, y'all have more than what we had. You know, as I go down through here, let me see here. Let me get one more here. This story right here, Bobby Smith, about the legend. This story right here, if y'all was to sit down and read it, I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and just read it, but these are stories when you see, I mean, for the game, for that time period, just scan over it and you're going to see Maurice Carver, Don Mayfield, Bobby Hall, Doris Bobby, Earl Tudor. I mean, look at the names, man. Bert Klaus. I mean, these stories will have y'all, you know, to me, it's amazing simply because these are stories and from other people, and it's very interesting because we always hear stories about Maurice, but the more you read about Maurice Carver, the more entertained that you'll become and understand why you had the Floyd Boudreaux. The Earl Tudors are the reason you got the Don Maloney's and the Leitners, and you got the Bert Klauses and the Bobby Halls. I mean, these people, fellas, in that time period, remember, I'm back here in 1988. All right? And they're talking about these guys. And you read these stories, and then you come back and you read enough of them, you'll be able to have taken something from each one of these great men. Because regardless of what you say and how you say it, their names have outlasted the test of time when it comes to these American pit bull terriers, because they was ringing their name back in the 80s. I'm damn near 60-something years old, and I know how many years later that is, and I'm amazed that when you still talk about the American pit bull terrier, these names are going to show up. And there's so many names that have been included into this history as we worked our way into the future, man. I mean, when I speak of the Abrahams, Kenny Allen, you know what I'm saying? Ricky Jones, Fat Bill, STP, Tom Garner. I mean, when I say these people's names, them people's names, when I look in and I see and hear their names in the Stone Cities and the Victor, they the new names was replacing these people's names. But when you talk about the American Game Dog, man, you're going to talk about them names anyway. Because without these names, these boys right here, you wouldn't be able to talk about Victor and Kenny and none of these other people. And if it don't be for Tudor and all them other people, you wouldn't have been talking about Floyd and all the other people that came after them. This dog game, man, has always been something that has always intrigued me as far as history is concerned, because I know the animal. I know a real American pit bull terrier is of all dogs is really about that life. I wouldn't give a damn if it was running up the wall, running the treadmill, or pulling a damn semi. And I wasn't the only one that seen it in the dog. We weren't the only ones that seen it in the dog. So the dog ain't never been the problem. Never. The greatness of the dog is always going to fall into the hands of the person who makes the dog. That's why I feel like this community has not, from way back then and to what I see it moving into the future, it was never going to be an easy task, even when the feds get involved and they come in with these RICO shits. All that might be all fine and dandy, and if they think they're going to curve it, all they're doing is making people look at the situation and be like, is it worth it? But yes, it's worth it. To me, it's worth it if you have the dog. If you really want to find something to do, there are other things out there that you can actually still do with these dogs. For real. And they will still withstand the test of time. They've done it. Now my night vision people, the people with that disease, hey, look, man. Like I said, all them years, and we still talk about great dogs. All these years later, we still talk about these great dogs. All these years later, we're going to still be talking about these great dogs. The thing is, for all you people who have never ever picked up a journal, it's easy for a lot of these people to sit back who ain't never had a champion between their legs. It's easy for people who have never ever put a dog in condition to do any damn thing. It's easy for people who had these dogs and they ain't never done shit with them, and I probably been had them 20, 30 years, but don't have nothing to show for it. You might know a lot about dogs, but my thing is, when it comes down to trying to chase clout, that's my thing. You're chasing clout with nothing. It's almost like you're telling a story and the only one listening is you. Because when you go back through shit like this, I guarantee you by the time if you ain't never, ever, ever known who the hell Bobby Hall or Maurice Carver or any Don Maloney or any people, if you was just to get you a couple journals and invest in them Fat Bill books and some of the them other books out there by Schoolboy, I'm telling you, man, you're going to understand what I mean. If we don't know you, we can't talk about you. If you ain't did nothing worth talking about, then there was no reason for me to see you in a book, regardless of what that book is. But these people right here, you're going to always see them. Look at them. Ronnie versus the A-Team. We already know. By the time y'all done, y'all would understand who the A-Team was. The names that comes up in these journals, man. They're just great stories. If you like just seeing people sit here and talk about them, I think you should even be making it a point to make it a part of your collection. Right here. When it came to scratch time, they both go good. Then Black takes the count. They had agreed to a scratch to win deal. You see that right there? They had agreed to a scratch to win deal. People who felt like, well, this and all that, no. Me and Mo made that our thing early. That every time we was going to climb over them walls, we was going to be scratching to win. We was going to be putting that on the table, even if it came down to it's an issue, then we flipping. Because there was a reason why they was using that back there in them days right there. Just because he didn't go, don't mean I'm going to lose to the man over there and he ain't going. Ain't nobody trying to lose to no Kerr, man. Ain't nobody trying to lose to no Kerr. And it wasn't like something that we ever felt like we had to argue about, because we never had an argument about it. But just to show you, just in that little snippet of that article right there, scratch to win was not something that was unusual. It wasn't. Actually, it was, from my standpoint, it was a norm. Because you sure the hell didn't want to be the one talking about no, when you thinking, well, this dog here, what y'all worried about? Do he scratch slow? Has he quit before? You go to asking all kind of questions, and it's just not one of them conversations you want to have, knowing that you standing here with a dog when, that's when you're going to be at your best, because you're going to be the most confident about the dog. I ain't got to worry about it. He coming. You feel the same way? Good. We scratching the win. Deal. That, that was the norm, man. But if you ain't never done it, I would understand. Never been in a position, I can understand. But my thing is, there was a reason behind everybody that you read in these books. And it wasn't about clout chasing. The only reason that you was reading them in the books and watching these people tell their stories, because this was the community that they're in. Just like if you look, I be looking at the Facebook, and I look at all them groups, and I'm watching a lot of people doing comment, and a whole lot of people doing a whole lot of things. That works over there on Facebook. But back in my days when we had this this little simple publication, real simple, these are real. I mean, again, I'm just trying to say, these are simple. These are match reports right here. Okay. If you wanted to just, they're just putting it out there, fellas. That's all. They're telling their stories. That's it. A-Team was putting in a lot of work back in the day. My thing is, these stories are a part of the American pit bull community's history. There's a lot of people all over the country that probably was in these dogs, but a lot of you guys don't know them. But there's a lot of men in these stories that you don't know. But then a lot of these men that's in these stories, you're going to know because they're from your area. See, that's the thing I liked about it. And that's why when we grew up in this game, is why we traveled, because it wasn't about just being somebody at home. Nobody around us was at home. They did things at home, but nobody, I grew up in this game that wherever it was, that's where you're going, even if you got to go across that water. What other way can I explain it? Because that was that part of that community. These stories will show you traveling was not an issue. Men were swapping dogs way across the country, all overseas. This community had a lot of integrity because, in it, and that it was more integrity than a bunch of bullshit. I'm not saying it was perfect. But what I am saying is the community as a whole is why them books flourished like they did. The community as a whole, based on what they were doing and the fight they were putting up, is the reason they were able to maintain, their standards and become even more popular through no help of their own, but through the media help that made the dogs even more popular, that the game got bigger. And when you're dealing with that community, what are you trying to do? You're trying to do what you're seeing these people do. You're just not going to jump in there with a bulldog and all of a sudden you're going to be known all over the world. That's not how that worked. That's why, I found it a pleasure just to see my dog's name in there, or even see we had 2 dogs that they talked about. That there is an accomplishment for us. But then look at the guys who just are the main participants of why we can even talk about Red Boy Jeep, Rascal, Bolio, Eli, Bully Son. The names can go on when they talk about the dogs, the great Robert T, the great Luther, Dolomite. I can say so many dogs, Yellow, Mayday. Then you got the owners of these dogs. See, all that is history, and y'all hear about it, but did you ever decide to ever just really, if you never had a journal, it's like if you ain't never had a real dog between your legs. You don't know what a game dog is until you find yourself in a position to have to scratch one. Because at that point in time, you don't have to have nobody tell you what a game dog was, because you're going to be able to tell them what it looked like to have a game dog leave from between your legs and do something that everybody considered that was a game ass dog. Not you, but everybody who got a chance to see what a real game dog look like leaving between your legs. Hey, all I'm saying is, talking about it ain't nothing like having it done by you. It's a big difference. Because you know what it feels like to hold one between your legs. That's what our history consisted of. All these men that I'm showing you, that's what they built their yards on. That's where their recognition comes from. And for all the ones who get out there, you see a couple black guys in there, fellas. Trust me, yeah. We've always been there. We've always been there. But the recognition, you have to understand, if you grow with these bulldogs and understand the history, then you should clearly understand how and when and why things changed. See, one thing history is not going to do, it is not going to let you hide the truth if you're looking for it. Like, don't nobody want to talk about slavery no more, but guess what, fellas? Because you don't want to talk about it don't mean it didn't happen. Hey, it's that serious. All of a sudden, nobody want to talk about dogfighting, but wait a minute, you can't help but talk about dogfighting because you can't say it didn't happen. It did happen. It was happening. If we take the history back, you can get an idea of when it started, how long it was started, and then look at the change. Why we at where we at right now? Why are the feds all involved? If you really want to know the story, stop letting people tell you the story and actually go get the full impact of just grabbing you some of this, some of these other books, and man, you will be so amazed about some of the information. Kobe Dogs by Indian Sunny. Some of y'all don't even know who the hell Indian Sunny is. But if I say Indian Sunny's Bolio, one of the greatest dogs in history, then all of a sudden, that Indian Sunny. But I thought that was Pat Patrick. Well, guess what? There's a story there too. But the fact is, I think it's still a great story. It's history, fellas. It's history. And then I'm looking at that history. I'm going back and I'm saying, I hear people arguing about some of the craziest things when it comes to these pit bulls in the now. And y'all got more. Remember, we only talk about a couple books. Y'all have access to a wide range of information and storytelling. Now, I'm going to just run down this book right quick. You're going to see their stories and everything, but you're going to see people selling things. See this? There's people down there selling things. $250 for pups. Great stories. I just think it's funny because, remember, I'm way back in here. Now, this Frank Rocky, he's a new editor at this point in time. So I'm gonna let Mo get into the Jack side, because this was a competition thing, and then you had some other one. I think there was the Game Dog Times. It was another Gazette. I think it was a Gazette. Somebody else had another book. And I know Vietnam was taking match reports, but I'm only dealing with the top two, and that was them, Sport and Dog Journal and American Game Dog Times, from my standpoint. The puppies for $300. What I'm saying is, even though you had the stories, you had other people's version of how to help, like for beginners, Rambling with Alabama Red. For if you was a newcomer and you ain't know nothing about this man, but he has a story in the American Game Dog Times. You know what I'm saying? I think you would be, you would appreciate this game a lot more and have a better understanding instead of listening to a whole bunch of people tell you, but hear it from people who was actually in the game. People who actually did this, who know what it feels like to do this, and if they're willing to give you a story, or it's out there for you to get to utilize it. Quit being lazy and just pick it up and read it. Everybody know. I mean, for those who don't know who that is Buffalo Soldier right there. That's him. And you see what they're doing? A tribute to him. That's him and his wife. You see what I'm saying? Great story. Great story. But these are the things that, to me, when we got in and we started doing these videos, we was always making it a point for the guys that we knew, the mentors that helped us out, we was not going to let people forget them. And some of y'all might not know a bunch of them, and then some of y'all know a whole bunch of them. Be, like, damn, that was running around with them. Yeah, we knew a whole bunch of people. But them men had stories. And without them stories, without no journal and nothing to preserve it, the only thing we have to do our part is to make a damn video and talk about them. Show you their great work. Show you what their contribution to the game looked like. Because history gonna help us do that. Because when we say they was really about that life, I can go back and show you they shit. I can't tell you about people who wasn't doing what they was doing. I can't tell you about people who wasn't a part of that thing called the journal. Because how would I know you if you ain't never stood on that across from us? I've been in enough places to see who was crossing where, who was getting in and taking care of their business, and how they was taking care of it, and what they had to where that was just how the community worked. Because those are people who were involved. There's a difference here. People are doing it, and we're telling you about doing it, compared to people who have already done it, and they write about them. See, it's that write about part, fellas, that as long as you can go get it and you really want to learn, it's out there. And I like to hear other people's versions of things, especially people that I know been there. I mean, how you gonna be in the Bulldogs and don't know who Boone is, or don't know Buffalo Soldier? A lot of y'all probably wouldn't even know who Denny Green was, or Mr. T, or McNasty, or Eminem, or the Abrahams, or Mau Mau, B. Crest, the Bishops, Loctite. I mean, man, like the J-Bos. Man, the list can go on. This is what this time does for us, because we don't have to write a book. We don't need the journal now. We have this. And I'm just, look how people abuse this. Because I'm still looking at how people are selling dogs based on what? Everything that happened way back here. Fellas, did y'all notice something? Let me show y'all something again. When you look at these journals, watch some of these pedigrees, man. They talk about legends. A legend dies and lives on. We already know. When you start looking at, you can look at some of these dogs right here. You know, Andre Giroux, we did a show on him. We already told y'all about him. Good man. Good man. Travel all up in the north. Look at this. Tribute. Walter Kamenzinski. I've seen people talk about this man right here, but don't really know his story. You see him in the pedigree, but do you know his story? This is Ozzie Stevens story about Walter. I remember all these guys. I'm talking about some of them. They right up north where we from. So you got to understand when I grew up around these dogs and started learning the history of these dogs and understanding what made one dog better than the next dog. I was under the impression at this point in time now that in order to be in this game to be worthy of anything, you got to have good dogs. Yeah. I mean, some great pictures, man. Great pictures, great stories. You know, if you don't know Frank, that's Frank Rocker. Another great dog, man. Can't help but love him, man. And then when Fat Bill took over, you know, it just got to understand, man, these is real dog people. And they giving you the real deal. Any anti-dog legislation violates the rights of the owner. My boys is putting in that work, man. They were putting in that work. But could somebody show me with all this modern technology that we have today, all these YouTube channels and everybody, show me where anybody's advocating for the bullshit that we actually are sitting back watching that was going on back then, but they was doing something. They really was, fellas. There's not a book that you're not going to pick up for, that you're not going to see laws have serious implications for all of us. I mean, I can show you this on and on and on and on of years of publications when we never gave up. Never. To me, that's what I've considered, that's what I thought bulldogging was. They fighting for their rights. At least have them. There ain't nobody business on what they was doing with them, because that's what they had to realize when it all boiled down to the basement. Everybody understood the seriousness of what they were doing in this game. But the fact was, they also understood that they had the right to at least have the dogs. Because not everybody was a dog fighter. I keep trying to tell y'all. And maybe that's why they had both communities together. Because if you can't tell the difference between who was in the box and who wasn't in the box, then how you going to be able to tell the difference between that dog used for dog fighting and that dog was being used for pulling the damn semi? How you going to know the difference by looking? Well, I heard who you hear from. We already know how that works. My thing is, fellas, today's time, when it comes down to talking about what's going to be new or showing me the new way, or everybody selling puppies because, you know, they going to change the way we call American Pit Bull Terrier, American Pit Bull Terrier. See, all this is new shit to me. Because I have yet to see how y'all going to tell me what game this looks like without calling. I'm trying to see how you just automatically just going to make this dog better than Mayday or better than anything by just Mayday dead and gone. But you do know Mayday was a box grand champion, right? You know, his shit was reported, right? Okay, so how y'all plan? So how's this new thing working out? I mean, tell me how that's supposed to work. So I have yet to see how that works. But everybody's selling puppies. Everybody's got that master formula. But to do what? I mean, fellas, back then, I mean, they was selling some of the best shit on the damn market for $200 and $300. Let me go down and see if I can find one. Find something good. I see my boy, the Ghetto Boys, was up in here. I mean, it's just great reading. But I'm trying to find. Let me find somebody who's selling something. Now you notice this thing got 314 pages. Pay attention up there for all y'all who don't know. 314 pages. Look at that bulldog right there. Look at the ladies. California weight pull. Putting in that work. See, but y'all understand where I'm coming from on that point. Because I know it can be done. Y'all just ain't got it together enough to be able to do it and put it on that level. See? Yeah, you have no idea. Look at that. That's Kenny Allen. You know, Kenny, these was paid ads. You're going to see Kenny getting special treatment, but hell, I think it was Floyd that he had just as much, and Maurice Carver. They have front and back pages of these publications. You know, Bert Sorrell, he was another one that had a bunch of them. But I'm just saying, man, look, I'm trying to get down to, look, they even had the videos, books, videotapes. I don't know how they would handle videos nowadays, you know, just having them now, you know, because of them videos. I think these videos was behind, I think when he had to go to court behind these videos. But again, there's no when, where, or what. A lot of that shit was overseas, and he ended up beating the case. Dogs of Beverly Steel. You guys ain't familiar with the book, check it out. It's out there, a lot of history. Everybody back in the day, we all knew about them. I'm trying to get down to, I am a dog fighter. Hold on. See, they said, swear them down, I'm promoting this shit. But how am I promoting something that's in a damn book? Y'all see this just as much as I do. If I was to sit here and read this story, in these little couple paragraphs, it's gonna sound just like we said we was the ones that sat here and wrote it. Because I know we all gonna be saying the same damn thing. Because it don't change. Because the situation, time might change, but guess what? We as people, we gonna always be feeling the same thing. And they said the best thing you can do when you have any type of addiction is first admit the fact that you have an addiction. Any dog man I've ever seen, they've always admitted to it. I used to. I was at one time. A lot of great dogs, man, in this book. Let me see how much they selling pups for on here. Do it say? Well, here's one right here. Like you notice, they do not have puppies for sale. All right, but why put it in there? Because they want people to know we ain't selling shit. So don't be calling asking. Hold on. 216. One more. Hold on. Yeah. As you see that 216 there, Frank and them. That's straight Ohio, for y'all who don't know. I'm trying to get down here to somebody selling something. I think I showed y'all one earlier. Let me see this right here. Nah, no, that's another book. That's probably him selling this book, but they don't show the cost of what they were selling some of these nice bred dogs for. Anyway, Kennels, do he have one? Yeah, here we go. This is a good one right here. Now, I'm not sure. I don't know nothing about this Bang Away Kennels. I'm going to just blow this up a little bit because some of y'all might know who they is, and I don't want to feel like I'm shitting on them. But it's 1988, man. Now, we all know Sorrel's Bull. We know Crumb's Cremator. We know Patrick's Tombstone. And we know Patrick's Red Baby. Y'all know these dogs right here. Now, look, we back in 1988 now. Well, let me go back up here to this. I don't want to miss nothing. That happened a little bit fast for me. I ain't go past it. Yeah, I gotta go up. Yeah, here I go, right here. Look at this dog's pedigree. Now, I'm just saying, this breeding right here on the top right here, for a 1988 situation and seeing the way this dog is bred, right? Imagine when you stop and look at your papers. You know, look at your papers, and even for this right here to be, look what's in the fourth generation. At least you can stop and say everything in that fourth generation that we can sit here and look at, knowing what we know of today. These dogs right here are supposed to be about that life. That's just on what the papers say, right? Why? Because of what these dogs in the fourth generation did. Because if you look at everything moving out this way, these dogs right here are supposed to be about that life, simply because of this right here. A fourth generation, if you look at it the way we look at it, right? Even in our situation, the CHs and the GRs, we want that shit out here. But even back in them days, you're going to have something in the fourth that you have something to look forward to in the first. Because that was your hope and prayer right there. February 22nd, 1988 was going to determine what this breed was going to do for me moving forward in my life. That's the way they looked at it. But then look here, fellas. The first litter, the first breeding, that's that one at the top. Old Family Red Nose Blood and Klaus Zeke, which were basically Hansel Carver. It seems to click. We all know that, don't we? Huh? We can be testaments to that. But then look at it. I would spend $300 on that first breeding, but look how much they're asking for that fourth. This is a 3/4 Bolio, 1/4 Snooty. $400. $400. Look at this pedigree right here. Look at the fourth generation, man. Look at that fourth generation. You mean to tell me a dog bred like this in 1987 for $400, $100 more than what I would have got out of this one right here? Kind of shit I'm talking about, man. Y'all spending $2,500, $3,000 for shit that ain't even nowhere close to that. I ain't here to put nobody down, but y'all know when we put up our pedigrees, we ain't never bragged on our shit. But we have made clear this is how we choose to have our breeding program. This is it. And you look at them pedigrees, man. When that dog, these kind of dogs was being given, they out there for damn near. Come on, man. Wait a minute. Hold on. $300 and $400. And you want to know why we always was running around with good shit? Paying attention to what they was already doing. See, back then, it was about show and tell, man. If any one of them breeds would turn out to be some bum ass shit, trust me, we wouldn't be talking about that bum ass shit. But we can still talk about the Bolio, the Zeke, Klaus Zeke. I mean, them first two litters. You see, I didn't even jump on the second one because I thought the first and the fourth breedings was better than that second and third. You know, but what I'm saying is it because the time period that we was in, why our shit was like it was? No, because this was in 1987, and they shit probably, didn't look no different. Our shit don't look no different than they shit. I mean, because basically everybody, on that side of the tracks, they was bulldogging. So the dogs have changed, but like everything else in the economy, when we used to buy a Snickers bar for 25 cents and that same Snickers bar down near $2 now and smaller, you know, taking advantage of something because it got popular. That what we doing here? The only thing about Snickers though, they didn't take away the taste. It's still the same Snickers. It still tastes the same. I'm paying a little bit more for it. They took a little bit away from me, but it still tastes the same. I don't eat Snickers like I used to. Got to catch them on sale. You know what I mean? You see where I'm going with that? You know what I mean? Oh no. If at any moment you start messing with the taste, I'm done with you. But how about looking at these dogs the same way, man? You're not guaranteed nothing when it comes down to it. That $300-400, they look, $700 would have been spent, man. Actually, $1,400 in back in 1987, because we was just getting cranked up. That was nothing. It was nothing. For all my people back there in the day that's up around that time period and had been in the game over 10, 15 years, they know exactly what I'm saying because it was nothing. I mean, nothing to run into a good ass bred dog. Competition was a whole lot tighter because you had a whole bunch of this shit out there that was trying to get it in. How in the hell are you gonna try to tell me with all that good shit running out there, proven shit out there, and you running into shit that we was getting fake ass shit? No, back in that time period, fellas, you have to understand. No, these people were getting it in. They were getting it in, and we would not be talking about it if the work wasn't worthy of talking about. So there is a big difference. So I'm giving you the outlook and trying to get you to understand the history. Because once the history is gone, y'all gonna be left with some shit that ain't gonna be worthy of talking about. And if it gets to that point, y'all don't have enough behind you to keep these dogs worthy of being the great dogs that they have been over the years. It's not in you. Because it's that underground achievement that always mattered. To make it something else, I have yet to see being done. But again, the dog ain't shit without the right man who's handling it. Because that's where the team comes in. Only thing I'm trying to get this community to understand, don't forget the history. Don't act like you're doing something new. If you were doing something new, you would do it. It would look like what they was doing in the past. On that level, y'all ain't doing it like that. Y'all ain't on them type of levels. Y'all don't have that kind of clout. So that ribbon don't mean shit. You ain't on that level. Even to win at a big APBT show, and they used to be big. They ain't on the level that they used to be. See, my thing is, when you're doing it to that degree, you're going to see a change in the game. Because you'll be back to doing it on that level. you're going to have women and kids and everybody involved. Because the pit bull is still popular, y'all. They still popular as hell. Y'all still doing what y'all doing. But because of the bullshit and the watering down, I'm going to just put it like this. They ain't the dogs that they used to be. And if they are, please give me a break, because the competition can't be there. Because if you was smart and understand that this game is not the way it used to be, that I would never hear you speak about nothing at all. As long as you ain't speaking or having to defend or anything, guess what? Then we won't have nothing to talk about. And maybe that's what the problem with the game is now. They need to get back to where you just don't have nothing to talk about. Go talk about that treadmill, or climbing that damn wall, or pulling that semi. Let's start having that conversation. Let me see a whole lot more of that, a lot more effort toward that, and leave the basement alone. They've been taking care of their business. And they will continue to take care of their business. And at the rate that we're going, they're going, the law gonna weed out all the bullshitters. All the ones that ain't cleaning up the yard. All the ones that standing around the pit with the cameras. All the ones that's doing the dumb shit. All the ones who want to have dogs and drugs and everything at the same house. All the people who on the phone talking. All the ones on Facebook typing, talking about I won last night. I mean, let the law take care of that. Because they're going to take care of that. Because if you're that reckless and careless, then I don't worry about them type. Back in the day, there was a time period when the streets was hot and brothers used to be out on the block, standing on the corner selling weed and anything you wanted. You just stand on the block straight up. You ain't that was the 9 to 5 kind of like, you know what I mean? But then over time, it wasn't cool to be out there standing on the block. Jump out boy just coming up, running up on you. Now you got to figure out ways. Now you got to put people on roofs and watch outs and all that. See, everything in that lifestyle is going to adapt to whatever the fuck is going on. This game here is going to adapt. But don't talk to me about what the future gonna look like when you start talking about this new way, when ain't nothing I can expect y'all to do new that hadn't already been done. What I would be expecting y'all to do is be talking like y'all gonna make it bigger and better than what had already been done. Because evidently, when you talk the way you talk, you don't know how big it used to be. 1 or 2 shows here and there, and are they at that level? I can show you some conventions that where it was 100, 200 people competing. 100, 200 people competing, if not more. I ain't on that level yet, cuz. Y'all ain't doing it like that yet, cuz. If that's what y'all working for, then okay. I mean, it sounds good. But take it from a person who lived in the time period when it was being done. And we ain't new to this. Talk ain't been nothing but talk anyway. After a while, you're going to have to understand it's all about performance, gentlemen. It's always going to be about performance. Every decision that you make when it comes to dealing with these dogs better be about some type of performance. Anything other than that, why the hell are you buying it? Because it look good? Because it say on paper that it's bred like that? You have no idea. Because how you going to know what kind of dog you really got? Only time going to tell. And up to this point is why we taking a trip back in time. You ready to take over this, Mo? You ain't got long to do this, man, because I done made my point. All right, fellas. Let me get back my shout outs. I see y'all. Big shout out. Big fan. Big Hill fam. I see you, fam. May Mori Nagiyashi. What up, man? Uncle Willie's Kennels. I see you, fam.
Go ahead, Mike. Just go. I'm just riding through.
Big shout out to my man, Mr. Henry James. What up, man? RB John Lone Wolf. What up, man? I'm just running up the list right quick, fellas. I see all y'all comments. Big Hill. Big shout out to Big Hill family coming up with that 2-piece. Appreciate that, man. Big shout out to the Dead Man. Welcome to the channel, Dead Man. Welcome to the Shark Tank fam. Let me see it. I'll get to see how it works. Big Phil, I missed the question. I'm reading the question, Big Hill. I can't. I forgot how it worked though. I couldn't. Damn, Big Hill. I forgot. You got big shout out to Big Hill. He got big super sticker for $1, and another one for $1.50. Appreciate the love, Big Hill. I'm trying to get to your question as I speak, bro. Big shout out to the Mad Doctor. What up, fam? Chico Nicholas representing the D. What up, fam? Big shout out to my main man, Eli Monster in the house. What up, fam? Let me go back down here right quick. I gotta see somebody came through with a 10-piece. Let me see. J Rock 35 coming through with a 10-piece, showing the love. Appreciate the love, fam. Big shout out to Talking to City Kennels in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my main man, Sam Prem. Excellent. What up, fam? Big shout out again. If I didn't say it already, I'll say it again. My man, Mr. Hemi James in the house. What up, fam? And for y'all who don't know, Hemi James was one of the people in our early days that's responsible for us to having these journals, him and Fat Bill. They looked out for us, man, and we got them signed. Hemi had a lot to do with that because he donated toward us. And I just always wanted y'all to know that's community, people, because I'm going to share the information that they looked out for us with and share with y'all. And I would suggest if you do not have these things, you need to get out there, get it up with Hemi, get up with Fat Bill, support them, and make this part of your collection, man, because this shit going to be around forever. And it's always good to have it in your collection. That's all I'm saying. Big shout out to Schoolboy. If you ain't got Schoolboy shit, I'm trying to tell you, you need to make it a part of your collection out there. And anybody else who wants to put the journals out there, because you know that shit expensive as hell nowadays. But hey, if you want to get the real shit, get it from the man who was a part of it, like Fat Bill and Schoolboy. They out here, y'all know these men. Y'all hear me talk about them. Let's start with just they shit, because there's a whole lot of information in they shit. Let me get back to my shout outs right quick. Uncle Willie, I see you, fam. Y'all forgive me, I'm going up the list now. I'm going to come back down through and I'm going to be checking some of the questions, but right now I'm going to get my shout outs out the way. Big shout out to my main man, Mr. Derek Lockett's in the house. What up, fam? Let me see. Bogus player power in the house. What up, fam? My man, Mr. Burning Star representing. What up, fam? Mr. O. I see you, fam. My man, Mr. Johnny Rockets in the house. What up, fam? Yo, my man, Union County in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to Bloodthirst, #1, aka Havoc 360 in the house. What up, fam? My man, Double M Desbo in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to Wells Kennels in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my main man, Mr. Marcel Shepard in the house. What up, fam? And I want to give a big shout out to my main man, Mr. Dickie Foster, longtime supporter in the house. I see you, fam. One of the first ones in there today. Big shout out to my man, Mr. James Jones in the house. What up, fam? Oh, man. What up, fam? I see you. Skip Bills in the house. What up, fam? Union County, I see you, fam. My man K-Walk in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my man, the Penny Stacker, #2 in the house, and I appreciate you showing up, fam. Y'all don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that like button on you, Mo.
Answer those questions, Mike, while you doing that. I'm just sliding through, getting them something to look at while you're doing it.
You can go jump in there. Big shout out to the Mad Doctor. He said, "You right. This game don't change. People in society does." You're right about that, Mad Doctor. You are so right. I'm glad I ain't the only one who feel like that. My man, big shout out to my man, Big Hill. Big Hill says, "We've been trying to say the exact same thing, and we've been trying, say these dogs been doing all these jobs, game-bred dogs. Now that twins saying it, where it is all bullshit, talk about the dogs different." Shaking my head. I hear you, Big Hill. I don't be understanding what I'm listening to sometimes, but then again, I understand that y'all don't understand what it means because you ain't never had it. It's easy to talk when you think you know, but unless you've had it to the degree that we talk about it, then I can't argue with you because you can't help if you don't know. But if somebody trying to tell you something, only time gonna tell who right. We've had a chance because we've done it. We've lived it. We've been through it. There's other people who was out there just like us. There's people in this Shark Tank and our viewers who understand where I'm coming from. So I don't expect all of y'all to know where I'm coming from. But I'm going to get you to understand that the reality of my conversation is we ain't just anybody talking. Some of us really do know what we're talking about and can stand 10 toes down on why we feel the way we feel. Not throwing no shame on y'all because y'all have yet to create a history. Y'all still living off our history of these great men that we talk about, the past. We have every right to fear that when it comes down to trying to understand what the future going to look like. One of the things I showed y'all earlier was that the #1 and the 4 pedigree the 300 and the 400. And I said, if I was gonna buy some dogs, I would buy it from them too. Not because of what was just in the fourth generation. It wouldn't have been just because of that. It was been just because of the person who was selling the dogs and having the opportunity to get my hands on them dogs. That's how it worked back in the day. A lot of the guys that we talk about, fellas, before the money started getting to them, you couldn't get shit. You wasn't gonna get shit. You really had to know somebody to get anything that was considered good. And imagine what that looked like when you got everybody spending $300 and $400, $500 and $600. Over the years, by the time the 90s got in, we started seeing different numbers: $750, $800, $1,500, $1,200, and every year through the 90s, because of the popularity, the prices went up because now the competition is still, and we started to make separation between the good and the bad. But there was a whole bunch of good shit out there, so you had to be right. That's all I'm saying, man. I hear you on that, big fam. I completely do agree, fam. Hey, before we get too much into this, I want to give my big shout out and my RIP to another great dog, man, that we have lost here. Big Thicket passed, and another great dog, man, and we always gave him his roses while he was here. That's why we talk about it. The man was a great dog, man. For those who don't know, it was competition. It was competition. He wanted some competition. He was not one to fear from it, didn't give a damn. But another one of them great ones we done lost, fellas. So, R.I.P. in the community should share the love. Because again, I'm always saying this. Don't wait till after they're gone to give them their roses. I am not one to sit back and say that I waited after he was gone, because we've always talked about Big Thick, and we're going to always talk about all the ones that we had some type of dealings with in some type of manner. They can never be forgotten. Even though Big Thick didn't need my help in that, because he did have Ajax, Ajax did beat Noriega. But hey, I've seen Big Thick get his ass whooped too, and seen him take shit real hard. But the damn thing was, that's the thing about that man. That man didn't give a damn when it came to bulldogging. When he had a good one, he knew what to do with it. That's why we could talk about it in depth, and he could still hold that same respect that any dog man deserved, who had good dogs and who played this game like it needed to be played. It wasn't all talk.
He had a nice treadmill too.
Yeah, on top of everything, you're right, Mo. He did have some nice treadmills. I'm just going down through here.
Enjoy it, bro. Yeah, man, it's some good shit, man. While you talking, you're getting a chance to look. I'm enjoying it.
Big fam said, twin, field goal post be moving like shit, man. That's what I see. They moving the field goal, fam, I'm telling you.
They move that motherfucker all the way up to the 20. It's going to be at 30 next year. Ain't gonna be no need to punt anymore.
I hear you, Eli. He said it's a blessing. What a blessing that we have Mr. Floyd B still telling us truth. You're right about that, Eli. It is a blessing to see he's still one of the greats, though. He's still hanging in there, man. But we still talk about a legendary Floyd Boudreaux. That's still big to me, man. I mean, I still can say, you know, Mama, he's still living. Fat Bill's still here. I mean, I can go on my list of my fellas, but you know, guess what, fellas? I'm gonna give them their roses while they here. I ain't gonna be waiting until they leave. That's what matters. Read these stories. Understand these men's position in the history of this community. You learn to respect it more. Appreciate the greatness. You know what I mean? And stop hating. All this damn hating and ain't nobody got shit. Give me to understand how that works.
Talking about nothing.
Talking about nothing. My man, Big Hill, I feel you, fam. He said, to me, they was all doing the same thing. Some was real, some was riding off the work of the real. Same shit today and tomorrow. Today, they just use the word clout. You're right. But Big Hill, I know you've been around a while, fam. That's what I was saying. You've been around a while. A lot of shit that they doing, we done seen it before. But at least before, we did have some real shit moving around, you know.
It wasn't safe to talk shit.
It wasn't safe to out there talking shit, you know, back then, because back then, you talk shit, you better go grab your dog. I ain't telling y'all to do that now. I'm just saying, in our time, talking shit, you would, you know, that only went as far as you in 8 weeks. You know what I mean?
You better beat it.
And you better show the hell up.
Or shut up.
Or shut the hell up. Damn right. Uncle Willie. I don't know, you know, we don't have a show to Friday, but just in case, you know, I don't see you Friday, you enjoy your birthday on Thursday, man. Happy birthday, fam.
Happy birthday.
I'm supporting my man Big Hill because he's supporting me and what he, you know, and I'm just saying, what he's saying, I feel it. In case y'all ain't noticed, we've been trying to do the same shit. Y'all can join whenever y'all want. It don't make your dog a cur. You hear what he's saying? And I'm in full agreement. Ain't nothing wrong with doing what they was doing in the past, and if you get enough of y'all together, y'all can get it back to where it used to be, where it meant something, where the dog will be back to speaking for itself. Give a damn if he running the treadmill or walk climbing. And them dogs, we had pit bulls back in that day, and it didn't matter. We wasn't calling them no goddamn curs. I keep telling y'all this game is definitely meant when it comes to these dogs, everybody had a different damn purpose. We didn't run around bashing people because of their purpose. They let us be who we was, and they did what they wanted to do. Some of us crossed the line sometimes, back and forth, but who knocking them? You can't talk no shit about a dog out there doing confirmation shows and doing weight pulling. They can come over there and go do that and then come over there and beat your ass. That go to show you what a real bulldog, it don't matter. If he about that life, he just gonna be about that life. Now, we talking about trying to do the right thing with it, but don't get it twisted. Big shout out to my man, Mr. Henry James. He said, come on, twin, one. Inflation, bro, LOL. 1,000 is a bargain. 1,500 is fair to me. Too cheap draws too many tire kickers. Appreciate that, Henry. Well, look, I feel you where you're coming from, though, Henry. That's why I wasn't in the habit of buying dogs. That's a little bit too much for my blood. I'd rather go ahead and just create my shit and take my chance and work our shit. We work our own shit. That's what that attitude gets you. If you feel confident in putting your own shit together, you ain't got to be out there buying your shit. That's how I look at it. And how we know? Because we did our own shit. We put it out there and we did it. If it worked, it worked. But then we ain't going to hear us talk about it because I probably don't forgot half their name. You know? Want to be a big shout out to my man 517 SEK in the house. What up, fam?
All right, are you ready? Yeah. No, I was just going through the, I was checking out a lot of these old dog men showing up at the weight shows, the weight and confirmation shows. They was involved. They wasn't stuck on themselves and they world. They took the community as a whole, from weight pulling to wall climbing. Confirmation. And we talking about dog fighters. Judging these events, showing up to these events, giving props, to these events. What's up, everybody? I'm here. What's up, y'all? Yes, sir. That was some good talk there, Money Mike. That was good. See, it's hard for me to come back off of shit like that because y'all usually, it covers those little sectors, and then you got the boys out there in the Shark Tank, really getting down into the insights. Literally saying, man, we've been saying this, man, and they don't want to hear that. Nobody don't want to hear that because to hear it, they know they're not included and they want to be so bad, but it's not their fault. I hear guys will sit there and put down these books and this history. You know why? Because they're not in it. But when it comes to them telling their story, they all world. Ain't nobody sharing a seat with them. That seat is just their seat and their confidence in their shit. Can't knock that either. But what I do knock is when you try to place yourself above something by trying to put it down. Like you trying to push the journal down so you can elevate and you ain't in shit. Y'all tell me how that makes sense. Okay? I'm going to be real about my shit. You don't care who don't like it. Because you want to argue with me, boy, you don't want to argue with me. Because I'm going to say it again. Those who complain and talk about this shit all the time. I ain't never going to journal. I ain't do this. I ain't do that. Fuck that journal. But guess what? The journal was here. When you say that out here these days, and you take the journal and say, man, damn that journal shit, oh no, this, but my shit right here. My shit is right here. Who believes that bullshit? Really? If you believe that bullshit, go throw a thumbs up. I guarantee that screen ain't gonna move. If you believe that somebody can actually get on these podcasts and say, damn the journal, I didn't put my shit in the journal, but you out here today telling us how good your shit was. But damn the journal. What did he just do? He took the journal, pushed it down here, and trying to elevate himself. Like, y'all really gonna listen to that bullshit? First mistake he made when he tried to push this out the way. You know what I'm saying? Because at least we can read what they was doing. We don't know nothing but what we listening to coming out your mouth. Ain't got shit to show for it but what you talking about. So, that's what I find wrong in a lot of this shit that I hear in these podcasts. Really. For those guys that went out there and put their shit in the journal, and there's a lot of guys that's in the journal that you probably will never see or hear them, or you might see matches in there, you might never see them in there again. Guess what? A lot of guys was putting their stuff in there for not for the recognition, but for the historical value. Let me remind y'all why we doing this stuff right here. Why we can do this stuff right here and talk and read about all these great dogs and all these things that was going on. Y'all can't do that with y'all shit. Ain't nobody talking about your shit. Ain't nobody reading no story about y'all shit. We hear it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only thing that I knock. Because preservation is everything. Preservation is everything. You cannot tell me you're trying to preserve by putting what we did in the past down to make yourself feel like you was above what we was doing. And you ain't never got to that level to even be there. So all of a sudden you supposed to be there now. Stop it. And for all you young guys and all you newbies that goes along with that bullshit, guess what? Y'all running around like the Pied Piper. Y'all the little children running behind the Pied Piper going nowhere. Because if you can't figure that shit, there's something wrong with that shit, then you're going the wrong way right along with the Pied Piper. And what I'm saying is probably stinging the hell out your ass and probably don't like it. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. The truth. Stop it. There's nothing wrong with not being in the journal. That's okay. But don't knock for those who was in the journal. Because at least we know they was in there because they was doing dogs. You trying to tell us some shit. We don't know if you telling the truth or you telling a lie. The only person we listening to is you. I'd rather read the shit. I'd rather hear somebody write a story on me. You know what I'm saying? You know, it felt good to hear Victor when he was talking about Mayday bring up the brat. You think we was out here trying to get some clout because we had some dogs off Mayday? How do we know that Mayday was going to even be shit? How do we know he was even going to produce like he was going to produce? We didn't. No, we didn't. We just took what we got off of Mayday and used it. That's all. That's all. We just caught him early. You know, that was the advantage and the good luck that we had. We had a chance to catch him early. And what came behind what we was doing created a legacy. So you're going to always hear Champion the Brat's name pop up when it comes to the Mayday dogs because Brat was the first one that stuck her head out there. And she was a hell of a bulldog. Set the trend. Then a whole lot of them other bitches off of Mayday set the trend. Yeah, he got some good males, but let me keep it real with you. Mayday threw some bad, hard-biting bitches that would wreck your shit. That's a good one. He produced some very nice bitches. Might not have produced that great, but one thing he did do. For those guys that had dogs like Chanel and Annabelle, myself with Brat, you know what I'm saying? May, Hannah. There's so many other great ones out there, but those are those main ones. You know, they came out there, man, and they got the job done pretty quick. You know, they all got the job done pretty quick. He threw some pretty rough females. But those females that got out there, they was nothing to play with. Okay? I mean, his sisters wasn't nothing to play with. So it was probably obvious that Mayday would probably throw some bitches that would be bad as hell. You know, we always hear him talking about Mayday and his males, but Mayday had bitches out there. Rat wasn't the only killer bitch. May wasn't the only killer bitch. You know what I'm saying? You still had Chanel and Annabelle. These dogs was, and Hannah. Them bitches would bite you down quick. You didn't have to test their game. They had it all. They was testing yours. You know what I'm saying? So that's the factors in the history that you cannot avoid. How can you be selling dogs and really try to elevate your yard without a background? Or just because it's you? Go ahead.
I want to give a big shout out to my man, Mr. Hemi James. Hemi said, get yourself a flash drive from Fat Bill of all this historical information so you can pass it on to the next generation and they'll learn to appreciate and respect the breed.
Yes.
Well said, Mr. Hemi James.
Yes, sir. I totally 100% agree. You know, you ain't got to go to the bookstore to buy a Richard Stratton book. You know, Fat Bill Schoolboy's books is definitely worth more than a Richard Stratton book. Trust me. There's more information in there than you can get out of a Richard Stratton book. There's more good stories and more great dogs and guys that you know that you won't see in y'all pedigree. You probably won't see a lot of these dogs no more. But the stories around some of these dogs and some of these dog men, they're not everyday men, you know, in the history of the dog game. That's a lot of us, you know, if it don't be for those books that they put out, we wouldn't know who they were. You know what I'm saying? Because right now, there's a big gapper in the name of the dogs right now. Y'all got a big gap in there. You know, if it don't be for the dark side, you know what I'm saying? You know, the dark side is where history is, and we won't know nothing about the dark side for another 10, 15 years. So between that time of the elevation of what was in the dark can come to the light safely, y'all gonna be putting up with a whole lot of garbage. You know, for those who got lucky enough who had goggles, who could peek into the dark and see what the light would look like, and built your yard off of what was in the dark, you know what I'm saying? You'll be in a perfect position when it finally get a chance to come to the light, because you won't have a journal to put it in. You know what I'm saying? You can finally put your shit out there on Facebook without having to worry about somebody calling you out, because your shit is in the past now. So they can say F your shit because you in the past. You know what I'm saying? And then you can always revert back, like you see me reverting to the same situation now. Don't go stepping on my shit to elevate your shit. You know what I'm saying? Because it really don't make sense when they do that. I mean, who listens to that bullshit and agree with it? It don't make no damn sense. You sure wouldn't get no money out of me to buy a damn thing. I ain't, for what? If you ain't gonna be doing nothing with the dog, you know what I'm saying? But bragging about the dog ain't put no work in yet. Only work we hearing him about the work he put in is by the person who's telling the story. Stop listening to that shit. You know, that's why I like talking about my old dudes, people I came up with, because you should know them. You know, they do have a history in the game. They do have famous dogs. You know what I'm saying? And they weren't trying to get clout. I don't think none of us was on no clout shit. We was on winning. Winning. And not only just winning, but having a winning program. You know, you heard me talk about the Yankee boys. You know, I don't talk about them much, but, you know, I know them. And they've been around a very, very long time. But, you know, guys like the Yankee boys, they right up in there with the Atlanta boys. And, you know what I'm saying? They was probably, you know, damn near like Ricky Jones. That BBK, you know, we hardly ever get down into their yard. They had a lot of dogs. You know, you can put them up there with Ricky Jones. You know, Mexican, I think his name was Mexican, God damn, you know who I'm talking about. But my man's name was Mexican something. You know, you're going to see him in a Falcon kennel. These are kennels that you don't hear much about when we talk about them. But if you had those old journals, you would see certain kennels, you know, that you don't see guys out there selling puppies out of their yard. You won't see these guys in these pedigrees of the day. You do find somebody who's got those dogs in their pedigree, you wouldn't recognize them. You would call it some bullshit. But if I was to grab them journals and slide them journals up under that damn camera and start showing you those dogs with those kind of dogs those guys had, you know what I'm saying? It'd be a different story. I'll probably wait for somebody to talk some shit about it. Then I go in and slide all those great dogs, you know what I'm saying, through there. And what can you say? You would say the same thing I just said at the very beginning. You did this. You took some great shit and you tried to elevate yourself by stepping on it. And you really didn't step on it. You did this and it didn't move. The only place it moved is for the naive and the people who don't know. You know, and they are the ones being tricked. They are the ones that's being lied to. They are the ones being manipulated. You know, so before you become any one of those, you know what I'm saying? Listen to what I'm telling you. You know, I know your yard probably don't have no, you want to believe in your shit. You want to be able to feed a dog that you think is all that. And you know what I'm saying? And you want to be, for some odd reason, whether it be on Facebook or in a podcast chat room, you want to be recognized. For what? Why? You know, we out of the game. We ain't down the dog in so long. Look, we out. There's no need for us. But what is your need to elevate like that? Where did you feel like you can step on history and concentrate on your shit? You know, you feed that shit. You feed it. You take care of it. You know what I'm saying? But for a guy like myself, that's all I can tell you. I know you feed that shit. I know that you talking about that shit. Okay? But for the life of me, coming from the world that I come from, I just be looking at it like, but you ain't did shit. You know, and what you did do, you know what I'm saying? I can't read about it. I just got to sit here and listen to you. So, you know, does not move my needle. If I got to just sit there and listen to you, it's not moving my needle. And anybody who's doing real bulldogging, it ain't moving their needle either. So it has to be a whole lot of naive guys just trying to grab clout and just trying to learn how to get into the game, which I call a bad way to get there, by putting people's dogs down, putting the past down, you know what I'm saying? Putting yourself on an elevated scale like you the next Tom Gardner or Earl Tudor. And it's just shocking to see that you got the Pied Piper and you look behind me, he got some damn followers. You know, that's how I look at it. Look at this shit. He just a twiddling on the lawn, saying all kind of whack ass shit. It got the nerve to have some followers. Don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger, because I ain't Paul Revere. You don't see me swinging those signs. Danger, danger, they're coming, they're coming. All the fake asses are taking over. No, I ain't saying nothing like that. I'm just saying, you know, it's real surprising to me, you know, that the Pied Piper has followers playing his little tune and got the nerve to have some people following him. Y'all explain that one, and I'll be willing to listen. You know, join in. You know, there's nothing wrong with feeding the yard and not doing nothing but trying to find something better to do with the dogs, but give it time. Right now, y'all got a gap. Y'all don't have a history. A history of what? Thank God for the guys who's got the addiction. You know, just come on. The ones with the addiction, they're the ones carrying the load. They're the ones that take the chance. They're the ones that, you know, when they fuck up, they be on PBK. You know what I'm saying? You know, but look, it happened in our time. Most of every one of them great dog men been arrested for dog fight. Most of them. You know what I'm saying? And turn around, and some of us got 2 or 3, you know, times they ain't got caught. You know? Like the first time wasn't enough. Man, I know some boys out there, man, they damn near got a 3-strike syndrome on their ass. You know, they can't afford a number 4. You know what I'm saying? I'd be wondering how you even let 3 come along. But it's like that. It's, you know, like I said, I had to come to some realization down there 20-something years later in my life, realizing that, you know, I know what it is now. It is an addiction. It's an inner mind addiction. You know, the act of war, whether it be UFC, boxing, you know, all that shit look corny to a dog man who has put everything in his life, his money, his family, his time, you know what I'm saying, into a dog for wins and scratches. You know what I'm saying? That's some honorable shit, whether y'all like that shit or not. There's history there. There's history there. We can pull up all these damn things. We've been doing it all night, pulling them up, pulling them up. We've been pulling them up, showing you these people. You know what I'm saying? These books are full of shit. You know what I mean? Same damn problem. Same problem. At least we got it in ink. So for all down through the years, it's in ink. There's a gap there that there's not going to be any stories. What very little comes out of the dark. All y'all gonna have to ride on for those who got that disease. For those who don't want that disease, you know what I'm saying, who wants to change, they was doing it back then, so it's not like you're doing anything new. The thing is, y'all not even doing that. Not to the degree they were doing it, because the two worlds, they were all the same world. They definitely coexisted. Every once in a while you'll have a show. We were asked to, judge a couple confirmation shows, and I'd be straight out honest with you. My eyes, I'm not like Floyd and all them. I only see confirmation in what a great matchdog looked like. I've seen many great champions and what they looked like, when they were in keep. And how they continue to look this way in their wins. So I would be real kind of biased, not willingly, I don't even think to a point of knowingly. If I'm going to be dealing with it on it as a trained eye, then my eye is only trained to match dog conditioned dogs. So I would not make a good referee or a good judge in a confirmation show, because I have no experience in judging a dog and its confirmation based on him just being a dog. That's two different things. And I'm being fair when I say that. Not taking nothing away from the guys who condition their dogs for the confirmation shows. You know what I mean? I think for you guys to be judged fairly, you know what I'm saying, it should be judged by recognized guys who knows how to judge a confirmation show. I'm looking at the dogs, and I'm looking at them and the ones that's in shape, and looking at how they looking, and that's what impressed me. And the other thing is, again, I'm still tripping on how how the feds ain't ran up in there and raided some of these dog shows with all the baiting going on. Baiting is just having two dogs sitting up there barking at each other. Unless there's a clause in there, where, all it takes is one show where they got their undercover people walking around, watching confirmation shows all throughout the country and shit, watching these points or this drive, the dogs drive, what I'm saying, especially here in Florida. Did we get a pass for being able to do that in confirmation shows, to show a dog's drive? Or are we going to start seeing them raid these confirmation shows by having videos and pictures of dogs baiting each other? That's something for y'all to think about. Yeah, I mean, and for real, you got to pay attention to that part, because there is a vague part out there just waiting. You know what I'm saying? And that's the truth. Other than that, hey, I like these books that Bill gave me. I mean, for real. I mean, you just don't put nothing together like these books overnight. You know, it really does take time. If it was that damn easy, I've been had one out here. You know, and his books got real shit in there. You know, I mean, I can relate to his book and Schoolboy's books because and Bob Stevens in those books, Velvet and Steel. You know what I'm saying? I can relate to these books because I can relate to the dogs in those books. I can relate to a lot of those dogs, and when I came into the game, early into the game, you know, and you know, Kowski dude had Maximilian. When Wise had Maximilian, you know, it was a real nice dog that I really liked that dog. You know, I mean, I fell in love with them red dogs, had them white heads. You know, I always said, you know, you see a dog that's red, got them white socks on, and them white heads, boy. You know, it always seems to be trouble. You know what I'm saying? Coaches had that kind of head. You know what I'm saying? Max and them had that kind of head. Twister and them had that kind of head. Them dogs with them white heads, man, you gotta look out for them guys. Snooty, you know, he had a, you know, but goddamn, he had that white head. You know, I always thought that, you know, yeah, Patty had that little white head. You know, you look at them. Dogs that got them white heads like that, man, always seem to be pretty hard dogs to beat. Go ahead.
Big shout out to my man Fo and them. I see you, fam.
What's up, phone? What's up, fam?
He said, actually, you are exact person that should be able to judge the proper keyword, proper way to look at the dog and how he should look because you know the right way.
Phone, and you know I love you, man. You know I love you, but phone him, don't get me in no trouble, man. see, you gonna get me in trouble, dude. Okay? Don't do that, cuz you know they gonna take that right there, phone him. And me and back? Okay, let's close it on out then, bros. You know what I'm saying? That's all good.
All right, fellas. Sorry about that. It just blanked out on us. But look, man, for y'all that's still left up in here.
Yeah,
hey, help me out, fellas. We close this thing out tonight. Don't know how we do this. Show some love. Big appreciation to everybody who donated tonight. For all the people out there in the Shark Tank, much love. But we're going to end this thing right by showing some love, by giving some thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Muscles. Muscles. Muscles.
Yeah.
Now, give me some damn roses. Roses. We need them damn roses.
Come on, y'all. Show some love, man. Hey, y'all need to give yourself something tonight because y'all did some, some participation. It seemed like it was a good topic. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed watching y'all. Putting the shit out there with Mike. Hey, look, I'm going to take us into the world of this shit this week, this Friday. We're going to go into the 1990 Book of Champions, okay? And we're going to go and look at some of these great dogs in here, man. That was the era when we called the New Jack Swing era, New Jack City, that was that era when things changed. While we at it, let me just point out some of these here. I like them like that. That's a good picture right there. Don't forget these books like this right here. This is schoolboy shit. Hey, we're going to dive in here and start playing with those, Y'all got it, that nice book. They go schoolboy with his lovely wife. Good articles in there. He has a keep. Schoolboy got a keep. I got that too. Here's the Big Red Handbook. All right. Look, that's safe to have around your house. You know what I'm saying? It looks like it. As long as it don't look nothing like the journal, you might get away with some shit. You know what I'm saying? If you got Richard Stratton up in there, you might want to get your little cheap Richard Stratton book and throw it in there with these here. You might work out for you just in case you have problems with the court system and shit, But yeah, see there, right there, you know what I'm saying? Nice. You see, there go that white-haired dog down there at the bottom, you know what I'm saying? I always say them, you gotta look out for them all white hairs, boy. They will shock you. You're gonna see a lot of famous white-haired dogs like that. But yeah, man. These are good books. I got Fat Bills at home. I got about four big ones of those. We got some sporting dog journals. I got a couple sporting dog Book of Champions and shit, I used to have a whole bunch of these dogs. When they took my shit, they never gave them back. I used to have pictures of Bob Lowry's yard, Grand Champion Ace, and Supernatural yard. I had so many yards. I had pictures with McNasty, the Abrahams. I had the picture of little Mikey winning the Best in Show trophy with Ohio Cash, and all the fellas riding around up on that. I had pictures of Grand Champion Satan. I had a lot of great pictures, man. When they took them, they never gave them back. But, just to have these right here, to me, the legacy, I enjoy reading them. There's so much information for a purple fancier, man. It's like, it really, to me, it gives you motivation. And if you ain't doing that, it just gives you motivation and, historical issues, man, that you will find very interesting when it comes to your own yard. You know what I mean? So, hey, at the same time, remember what I told you. Sometimes, you have to weigh the difference and shit, but then, if y'all come together, we should be able to have these type of things, Shit, what if somebody took a flash drive? What if somebody in this room was investigating somebody in this room, and while we in here talking, they taking snapshots of the chats of they target. Somebody in the chat room might be a target, and they hip there taking snapshots of you inside of this room, and then try to say that this is a dog fighting room. and there he is in there. You see what I'm saying? How do you know what I'm saying? But this is the kind of shit that they will do. Did anybody ever think about that?
Yeah, they can't put nothing by them, man.
You can't put nothing by them, man. Their job is to win their case. They can throw shit on the walls, and guess who got to go clean it up? If you don't go clean it up and you leave it on that wall, they're going to find your ass guilty. Now, you got to be able to handle that shit they throw on the wall. They throw anything on that wall that they can hope can stick. And that's why it's so important for you guys to really listen to what we're saying. Don't ever say never. Because when they start catching the real bad guys, they're going to start catching the good guys. Because y'all easy bait. Okay? Don't forget that. Love all y'all, man. Thanks for coming up tonight.
Appreciate that, man. And be like the dogs, man. I mean, I always felt like our dogs was a representation of us.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm spotting.
You know what I mean?
You know, I throw that foot out there too. I'm spotting. Kicking shit. You know what I'm saying? Tossing a motherfucker down in the hole. After I win, you might not like the way I act when I win. Told y'all. Get that shit out of here. I'm Sparta.
Always. Man, listen to me. You
got
always
scratch the win, man. With much love, man.
All day, baby. I'll see y'all Friday, man.
All day. Oh, man, I ain't got to get me a dog in the night before I go up out of here. Who was we talking about earlier? Let me see who I want to grab. That was a good one I saw earlier. Tell somebody, hey, fans, family.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, they're going to have 1,000 names up there.
1,000 names popping up.
Okay, let me see. It's got to be a grand champion, though. Let me see.
I had Robert T up there earlier.
Okay, we'll do Robert T in since he was on there.
No, he was in the book, though.
Okay, but I'm going to put his pedigree up. But he's champion Robert T now.
Yeah, but that book came out when he was a grand champion.
Yeah.
Dog of the night. Hold on, fellas. We're going to working on this dog of the night. Gotta have one.
We ain't got no. No, that ain't one. Why do all the whack online pairs have this shit, man? And the one we use don't have it. I'm going with this one. We're going to have to use this one. How about it? There we go. We're going to go with this one.
Dog of the night.
Dog of the night. Use a red nose. The best head dog ever beat host grand champion ADAP, grand champion Migraine, and that was a hell of a match. Champion Ninja, that's wrong. Champion Gomez in 3 hours and 10 minutes. Robert T finally lost to Tito's champion Ninja. See, that's wrong. He was 9 years old. See, all that shit is wrong, y'all. See, that is not all real. Okay, he did not lose to Ninja. He lost to Legion of Doom's grand champion Duke. It might be another Robert T. Jr. that lost to Ninja, but this dog right here that beat Migraine is the dog that lost to grand champion Legion of Doom's Duke. Just wanted to bring that up there, but he's gonna be my dog of the night, either way. Yes, sir.
Alrighty then, Mo.
Where's the music? Down, no down, hold down, down. Money down with me now.
All right now.
See that pack potato down in there? What I been trying to tell y'all about that shit? Huh? What I tell y'all? Yes, sir. That's that Carver Eli crop. And it ain't really, that's a Carver dog, period. Cause all this shit Carver. Whole gang of shit right here, all that shit's Carver. Think about it, be about it. Keep it right. Keep it tight.
Hey, hey.
Okay? Cincha.